point. AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Clip 4 is Sheila Salter. She's testifying before Congress yesterday. She is a small business owner, and she is testifying about what she discovered as she was exploring healthcare.gov. Let's listen.
About, go to the exchanges, shop. You have one plan, okay? That plan includes the benefits listed in the left-hand column. Now, you can see Sheila's plan. Sheila's plan was the one that I chose. I chose my services. I've done that for all these years. I chose those services, chose that deductible for $202 a month. Now, with Obamacare, I have to have those 10 essential benefits. Now, I challenge anybody in this room to look at the services that I selected for myself, noting that I'm 61, I know I don't look it, and I have no children or history of alcohol or drug abuse yet, okay? Because this is driving me to drink. But does anybody here really think that I need all the services on the left-hand column? I don't think so.
You know, she's exactly right. She's 61. She doesn't have children, so she doesn't need maternity at 61. She doesn't need pediatric dental. She doesn't need pediatric vision. She's never touched a drop of alcohol in her life, although she says, I'm getting ready to start, so maybe it's a good thing that that's in there, because by the time I'm done dealing with Obamacare, I am going to need substance abuse treatment. Never been to the shrink, but she's got to pay for it. So just an example of how this thing drives up the costs, and she pointed out the services that she chose. She picked them out herself. She was willing to pay for them. She set the deductible and all that kind of thing, and all that kind of stuff is gone. Another thing that's gone is the ability to keep your own doctor and your own hospital. That's another thing that's beginning to become apparent. People are not going to be able to keep their doctors. They're not going to even be able to keep their hospitals, because these networks, in order to cut costs, are developing a shrinking network of doctors. You can't go to the doctor unless he's in network. If he's not in their network, you can't go. You could before, you can't now. Same with hospitals. If your hospital you want to go to, if it's not in the network with your provider, you can't go. And a lot of the best hospitals in the country are not on these networks. Now here is, and remember, this is another one of the promises. This is clip 15, Jay Carney. Another one of the promises that President Obama made you. Like your doctor, you can keep him. But listen to Jay Carney. Turns out it's not true, and even the White House is admitting it.
What is the case is that if you are purchasing insurance in the marketplace, you have a variety of options available to you, from less expensive plans to more expensive, more comprehensive plans. And as is the case in insurance markets and networks all over the country, the more comprehensive plans tend to have broader networks. So if you are looking for, if you want coverage from your doctor, a doctor that you've seen in the past and want that, you can look and see if there is a plan in which that doctor participates. And that reflects the way that the private insurance system has long worked.
So that's Jay Carney saying, no, you can't keep your doctor if you like him. You might. The only way you can do it is you got to go to the website. Remember, in President Obama's promise, there was no caveats. You like your doctor, you can keep him, period. Now, Jay Carney's saying, well, if you like your doctor, you can keep him if he is in the network that you're a part of, if he's a part of the plan that you sign up for, then and only then can you keep your doctor. So just another one of the lies that President Obama told to get this thing passed. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Stan, Fort Smith, Arkansas. Stan, welcome. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for your show. I know it's been talked about a little bit, but I don't know if it's talked about enough. And, looking at Obama, he seems relaxed and cavalier about, the disaster that's happening. But if you think about the end game, I think he's just going to let us stew in this misery of Obamacare and then roll out what he wanted to all along, which is single-payer socialized control.
Yeah.
What's the conservative doing about short-circuiting this, and are they even going to see it coming?
Yeah. So you're seeing that what President Obama is likely to do here is kind of swoop in with sort of a grand solution to this problem, which would be single payer.
Oh, yeah, and then
Yeah.
people, after having been, miserable for 6-8 months, I guess
sort of
this will
grabbing
be
at
our
straws.
consolation prize.
They'll grab for it as kind of a life preserver. Well, it's interesting that you say that, and I don't know if anybody really knows the answer to that question. Number one, I've said this before, but I don't think, Stan, that this represents some part of a brilliant strategy on President Obama's part to cause this whole thing to fall apart so that he can institute single payer. Because what he's doing is he is shredding the confidence of the American people in the ability of the government to manage health care. We had this survey earlier this week where I think now between 50 and 60% of the American people say the government should not be in charge of making sure that everybody has health care. In other words, single payer, government running this thing and making sure, that's toast now with the American people, and it's because of Obamacare. Now, I think the way that President Obama pictured this thing working is he'd roll this thing out. I honestly believe President Obama is surprised because he is clueless about what it takes to set up a website. He's admitted that. So I think in President Obama's mind, he was just going to issue these edicts. People would snap their fingers, website would pop up, and all this thing would be working. And people would be getting their health care, and they would have this government managing everything and everything going through the government portal. And then I think his idea is people would say, well, hey, look, this is working pretty well. This is actually a pretty nifty little system. Now, why do we need that second layer of health insurance companies? We go to the government for this. We go through the government for this. Our money goes through a government portal to these insurance companies. Why do we even need to have these insurance companies there for this money to kind of get kicked down to? Why don't we just have the government take over everything? And then everybody say, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. It's working so well. Why don't we just do it? I think that was honestly his picture. He thought this thing would work and that would be the ticket to single payer. Instead, this thing is absolutely, completely, totally falling apart. So, to answer your question about what the conservatives are doing about it, I don't know. I know that their strategy now is to let it burn. Just let it burn. And that's the only thing they can do. I mean, that's all they can do. I mean, it's probably the smart thing to do, but there is no alternative. You can't fix this thing. You can't save it. All you can do is let this thing burn to the ground and then see what you can build in the ashes. So what I'm hoping is the Republicans are not going to give in. This is the thing I'm concerned about, Stan, is Republicans giving in to some kind of desperate appeal from the Democrats, come across the aisle and help us fix this thing for the sake of the American people. The reality is it cannot be fixed. And any effort you make is going to do more harm to the American people. If you love the American people, you care for the American people, do not try to fix these things. Don't fall for that kind of song and dance from Democrats about how we need to work together to protect the American people and save this thing. Just cannot be done. And I honestly believe, Stan, that I got a soundbite from Ted Cruz, that Republicans have alternative plans in place. They've got ideas in mind, selling insurance across state lines, tort reform, so these malpractice awards are kind of brought into balance. Some of those very common sense health savings accounts, low premium, high, all those kind of things. I think they're thinking about those, and if the opportunity is there, I think they'll be prepared to bring those forward as alternatives to Obamacare. But right now, this thing has just got to burn to the ground until the Democrats come to the Republicans and say, will you help us torch what's left? Help us burn the rest of this thing to the ground. Then the Republicans can say, glad to do that in a bipartisan way. Let's do a scorched earth thing on Obamacare. Get this thing out of everybody's misery. All right, Stan, thank you for the call. Let's go to Kurt, Grants Pass. Kurt, what's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Brian. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet. What's up?
Now, what did Chief Supreme Court Judge Roberts say Obamacare was?
A tax?
Okay, you have a constitution. There's two types of taxes, indirect and direct. This is a direct tax. Article 1, Section 9.4, any direct tax has to be done by a census and enumeration. So if it's a tax, then everybody pays the same.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing, abortion is mandatory in Obamacare, right?
That is correct. In fact, on the D.C. exchange, every health insurance policy you buy in D.C. covers abortion, but they don't cover hearing aids.
Okay, here's my question. I was listening to Kevin McCulloch talking about the scumbag abortion doctors. Who's the real scumbags? The government that's pushing abortion. For people that want to go into the medical field, you have to know how to do abortion. They're the real scumbags.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they definitely are facilitating this. One of the problems, Kurt, thank you for the call. One of the problems that you have right now in the abortion industry is that doctors have to be forced to take abortion training. Doctors go to medical school. Most of them do not want to learn how to kill babies in the womb. I mean, they go into medicine because they want to help. They want to save. They want to do what they can to preserve life and to preserve health and to restore health. That's why they do it. It's a classic helping profession. You go in it because you want to see sick people get better. That's why you do it. So nobody goes into the medical profession saying, how can I injure life? How can I maim people? How can I prematurely terminate human life? They don't go into it with that goal. So they're having a hard time finding abortion providers. And so a lot of medical schools are forcing them to take abortion training whether they want to or not. You've actually had some court cases where you have doctors in medical school or guys, potential doctors in training, say, no, I'm not going to take training in abortion procedures. I never want to learn how to do that. I never want to do that. Now, there's a reason why they have to be forced to do it, is even in the medical profession, for reasons I've just mentioned, abortionists have no stature. They have no status. They are considered scavengers. They are considered bottom feeders by others in the medical profession. So that's why, that's one of the prospects of reducing abortion in America is what if you run out of abortion providers? What if the conscience of the medical profession gets touched in such a way that more and more doctors said, look, I am just not going to do it. You cannot pay me enough money to violate my Hippocratic oath. Focal Point AFR Talk will be back after the news. Stay with us.